Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Halley's Comet, another arcade archive classic. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Taito, Halley's Comet released to arcades in 1986. That also happens to be the last time the comet of the same name visited the inner solar system. So Halley's Comet is an interesting vertical scrolling shoot 'em up that has some neat ideas that I think are rather unique for the time the game released. It is a rather difficult shoot 'em up, which once again isn't surprising given the era the game released, but it's one that I think is worth taking a look at. Rather than explain more, let's just dive into the game. Putting the coins into the machine, we can select between 1 and 2 players. Unfortunately, the game does not support 2 players simultaneous, it's 2-player alternating. Starting the game, we get this beautiful rescue the Earth from the comets. So that's basically our story and our mission. So in Halley's Comet, there are, Halley's Comet and these aliens accompanying it attacking the planets of the solar system. And our job, we defend those planets. So there's some interesting things going on here. The game itself is a standard vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, but on the right side of the screen, we have some fun meters, which I kind of feel makes this game stand out given the time it released. So it's indicating our distance from the comet, and over the course of a couple areas we'll get closer to the comet and ultimately enter the comet for a boss battle inside. There's also at the bottom of that meter, there's our planet that we're defending, in this case Earth. For any enemy that gets past, for any comet fragment that sneaks past us, planet Earth takes damage. If the planet happens to hit 100% damage, then it's game over. You lose regardless of how you're doing in surviving the enemy onslaught. Which I think is a pretty neat idea. In addition to that, on the right side we also see the number of lives we have. So we're defending the solar system. We start off by defending planet Earth, and as the game progresses, we'll be defending other planets. We move on to Venus, and then move all the way through the solar system, including Pluto, because at the time this game came out, Pluto was considered a planet for another 20 years after this game came out. Unfortunately being regaled to the status of a dwarf planet in this day and age. But that's aside from the point. So the game itself has us flying this spaceship, which is a beautiful green color, firing green lasers, defending the solar system. The game does suffer from a little bit of power down syndrome, so once you start losing lives, it's difficult to build yourself back up and progress further in the game. The power-ups we obtain come from these little asteroids we shoot. So the power-ups all power up the laser in a couple different ways. So there's one that gives us basically like a 3-way shot. There's one that acts as a spread where we fire 2 orbs at angles from the ship. There are also power-ups which will increase the size of our weaponry, power-ups that increase our speed, and then there's one power-up that gives us kind of a screen-clearing bomb. The screen-clearing bomb actually kind of acts interesting as well. I just picked one up. We use that ship bomb, and in addition to blowing up the screen, it warps us further ahead in the stage. Pretty interesting. So we're approaching our target. You can see there that we're getting on the right side, our little ship indicator is getting closer and closer to Halley's Comet. Provided we can survive long enough, we'll have an encounter with the comet itself, which is actually really neat, seeing it come onto the screen that way. So in this encounter, there'll be certain turrets or holes that open up in the comet, and we have to destroy a certain number of them to ultimately blow it open, and this rift this door opens into the comet. So kind of the plot that seems to be going on here is that aliens are taking over, or that they're using the comet to assault the planets of our solar system. And it seems like, well, actually, like, now that I stop to think about it, maybe it's not such a bad plan. Crashing these like giant balls of rock and ice into a planet could be a pretty good way to deal some pretty catastrophic damage. As we move through this, like the game takes on a little bit of a different appearance, and will ultimately face yet another boss at the end of the stage. So that's actually one thing that's like relatively surprising to me, and that I appreciate, is once again, for the time that this game came out, I appreciate that the variety in bosses and even like stages that the game happens to present to you. There's also a fun part that I haven't mentioned, but when you die either via game over for the planet or game over for yourself, it jumps to the planet, and then it's like the comet crashing into it. The effect itself is kind of silly, and does have a fair bit of flashing lights, so just a little bit of warning that way. But it is worth seeing at the very least. So we've made it to the end of our Earth defense. This is the boss of the stage, and compared to some of the rest of the game, this is actually pretty straightforward, provided we've been powered up a little bit. We just have to destroy the various panels as they open up. Then, boom, our defense of Earth is complete. We're given a result screen based off the percentage that of damage Earth took, and we move on to the next planet in the solar system. In this case, Venus. So actually, this game has a lot of content to it. It's actually very, very robust. But the basic cycle repeats. So there you have it. That is Halley Comet served up for your enjoyment. As far as the minus flavors are concerned, one thing that I have like a frustration with, you might have noticed, but if you do not pick the power-ups up right away, they'll move to off the screen. Not in the usual up and down fashion, but they actually move left and right, making it very... Oh, here we get to see the planet explode. Left and right, making it very, very difficult to get the power-ups in some scenarios. So, yep, not a fan of that. In addition, the game does suffer from the power down syndrome, so if you happen to lose a life when you're fully powered up, it takes quite a while to reclaim that glory that you had before. But on the plus side of it, I love the idea that we're in space defending the planets, and having that graphic on the right side of the screen indicating that just really helps like drive that home, and I just like that little bit of detail. There's also the color scheme, like having a green ship that fires green lasers. Well, green is my favorite color, so that's a personal preference, but it's just something that I personally like. There's the unique enemy patterns that the enemies have. If you're the first few times that you're playing it, that's like you'll definitely like notice that the enemies they're not directly targeting you, but the patterns they have definitely been designed to like frustrate players that are trying to get power-ups or like dodge shots. It's actually pretty pretty intelligently designed. And then like the various like boss fights that you can encounter in the game, I find enjoyable as well. And our fun warping ship bomb thing. It's a little on the weird side. So anyway, this is one that I've had a decent bit of fun with, and though hard, I think it's one that is worth having a look at. Alright, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.